a bunch of these like spots, and I was like, oh my gosh, is that an allergic reaction? Apparently it was just hickeys. And tell me why I see the Confederate flag on front of the truck, the pickup truck. Oh, she was talking about like mean roommates that she had in the past, and she was like, oh, if you be mean to me, I'm gonna have to be mean to you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and I was just like, huh, like, does she mean racist or anything like that? Because I'm just like, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Keva, and I have recorded this video a billion times already, so yeah. So I want to try and like tell you guys my college roommate experiences, and probably like as fast as I can. So basically, yeah. So I'm going to just tell them in a nutshell and not do too many details because my SD cards are going weird and doing the most. So yeah, if you guys want some more information or tell-alls, I'll probably do a second part, but I'm gonna try and keep the details at a minimum. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm just going to start with my first, I'm just going to tell you, okay, so I was a freshman, in college. I graduated high school in 2019, so like it was actually like June 2019, I graduated high school. Then I became a freshman in college, fall of 2019, and yeah, so basically I went to Purdue University Fort Wayne for my freshman year and like some of my sophomore year. And I originally had booked this room. I'm not sure if I booked this room by accident or they just gave me what was left over and switched my room or something at the last minute. I'm not sure what happened, but I ended up in this room, and like it was in one of the newer buildings on campus, so all of the Fort Wayne apartments, all the Fort Wayne student housing that's part of like the campus, it's actually like all apartment style, so there's no like actual like regular dorms. Basically there was like the original apartment that I had was like it had like two rooms with its own like door and stuff like that on one side, and then like the other two roommates shared a bathroom, and then my room was like basically divided by a cubicle, and I didn't want to stay there. My roommates were nice and everything, but like I don't know, there was like a thing where people are like super, when they have like similar like, you know, personality characteristics to you, there just seems to never be enough room. Because like I had that same issue with like my roommates in the high rise. Like they had like a lot of the same stuff I already had, and they were like, oh my gosh, their personalities were like oh my gosh, some of their characteristics were like so like me. It was kind of scary, and it was kind of, I didn't get to know these roommates freshman year. Totally different campus, by the way. I'll get to that. So I ended up moving out. I moved into a different place in an older building. It was building F, and like there was a lot of athletes and stuff there, and my other roommates were nice as well. And then, but it was there was one scare. It was a mental health scare, and it was like my first time dealing with like or being around someone that has like mental health issues. So this roommate actually had like some trauma and stuff like that, and they actually ended up coming out as trans, but originally like mentioned that they were gay. Like all the roommates like knew this and stuff like that, so like they were like out and comfortable, but like they didn't like come out as trans until like later. And in the semester, so like they changed like their pronouns to they them and their name. So I think I gave this person the name Canon, because like I don't think that's a good name, but I can't think of another one right now, and I'm already at 4 minutes. So yeah, I have like my batteries and stuff right here, that's why. So yeah, it's like no shade to like you know, or anything. So basically, this roommate, they were also in a polyamorous relationship, and their partner was visiting one weekend, and yeah, I don't know too much about like polyamorous relationships. I thought it was more of like a thing like everybody knows each other, and but they had a dynamic where it was their partner from, I don't know where they were from, like I'm not, like North Carolina or something. Their partner, my roommate's partner, was talking to somebody else in Michigan as well, and like my roommate knew this, so I'm not sure, like, is there like diverse ways of polyamorous relationships? Like, I don't really know too much about like the relationship dynamics and stuff. I usually see when someone says that they're in a polyamorous relationship, I usually hear that like everybody is like in a relationship together, and like they make choices together, not like individually, kind of like how I just described you my roommate's relationship was. But anyway, so I'm gonna get to the stuff. So basically, there was a mental health scare, as I mentioned, and so their partner was coming to my room, knocking on the door, and I'm like studying for a Spanish exam, and I'm just like, kind of like a little irritated because like they were like, you could like hear them like, playing tag and stuff. Like their partner, they also go by they them, but they had more of like a feminine, girly, bubbly personality, and like, aesthetic, and what's it called? So basically, they were like, I think they asked me for a pad or something. Like they came to my like door like 3 times, like knocking, and then like there was like at first like, I don't know, they were saying something like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what's going on, and like they like very like I don't want to say it's dramatic, but it was like very like, I don't know if they were playing a game or not, because I grew up in a house with a sibling that's hypochondriac, so you never know when someone's being serious, or if it's like, oh my gosh, like, don't worry about it, just calm down, I'm sure it's gonna be okay, like, yeah. So, but anyway, they ended up like coming back to the door, and like, I don't know how many times they came back to the door. This was like a few years ago. Yeah. So, and like, they were like holding onto my hand, they were like, oh my gosh, and like it basically kind of like freaking out and like having a little like panic attack, and they were like talking about how they had a former partner overdose, and they were telling me like in front of them, and they were telling me that like my roommate took some of their medicine and had pills, and like they didn't even know, and my battery's about to die. Me and my roommate on my side, we were freshmen, and the other 2 roommates on the other side of the apartment, they were sophomores. And so nobody was 21 yet. We weren't even, I don't think any of us were even 20. Yeah. So we were all kind of like around the same age pretty much. And yeah. So like 18, 19, that's pretty much like everybody's age. And the other 2 roommates, they were going to be 20, and yeah. So anyway, basically, okay, so I'm like, okay, like, so I'm like texting, and I'm like seeing like, okay, so like something actually is like, possibly wrong, like I need to go check this out, because they came to the door like so many times, and I'm just like, at this point, like something is clearly going on, and I think that, I don't know if they were like joking. They were joking at first, and I heard them like laughing and giggling outside. So I just figured like, maybe they were doing a role play, cosplay, or something like that. I don't know. And because like my roommate would actually go to like class like dressed up, because we had like a biology class, a giant lecture hall together. And so like they like, I would see them in class sometimes, and like they would just like, be dressed up and like, doing their doing makeup and stuff. Like I think they went to class as Raw Unstoppable one day, and I was just like, so so I'm like texting my other roommate, Kelly. So Kelly knows my roommate Cannon longer than like anybody else has in the entire apartment, and because I've just met like everybody. Like I said, I'm a freshman at this point, And so Kelly and her friend, uh, Amy, yeah, I'm just gonna say Amy, uh, yeah. And so Kelly and her friend Amy, they like came by within I don't even want to say minutes, like, because it was like really like seconds. I was like basically giving her the rundown over text really fast, like, hey, I need you to come here. I'm not sure if Cannon is joking or not, or like, like what's really going on. Their partner said that that Cannon took some medicine and had some alcohol, and apparently, oh yeah, so so the partner of my roommates, Cannon's partner, actually, I think she did like they do like ER stuff or something like that, or they're like a nurse or something, or a certified something like in the medical field. And so they already know like you're not supposed to like mix medicine and alcohol, which is like I didn't even know that, but like I don't like alcohol's not really like my thing, like yeah. But yeah. So anyway, so like they like so Kelly and Amy get over to the apartment like super fast. Like they're literally there like way faster. And I was just like telling myself like, okay, if they don't get here within like a certain amount of time, like within like the next minute or so, then like I'm calling 911 just to make sure, whatever. And so anyway, like Kelly and Amy ended up calling 911 just to make sure like everything's okay, because like they're like my roommate's having like a mental breakdown or whatever. And basically like the cops get there, and they were like basically saying like I was like they want to know like how we were all involved, because like all the roommates pretty much knew and stuff like that. And like that's why like I call it like, yeah. So I was like basically like giving the cop like the entire rundown of the situation, and he was just like informing me that like if something had happened to like my roommate, like we've all would have been in trouble. Anyone who had known about like the situation would have like been in trouble. And he literally said that he has seen people get their entire lives thrown away and from like similar like situations because something bad happened to a person and they didn't call 911 soon enough. And so he was saying that it's always best to just call 911 right away. Like it doesn't matter like if you're not sure if the person's joking or not, just call 911. So it so you can just like make sure that the person is okay, and also protect yourself legally as well, because like that like the entire situation could have went south. Long story short, like they were there and like trying to like speak to my roommate and stuff like that, but my roommate was refusing like any form of medical care, and was actually kind of like upset that 911 was called. But it's like, what were we supposed to do if you're like out here like saying all this stuff and you're taking like medicine was taken and alcohol was mixed with that. And so basically the cops end up leaving after a while. Then they come back because our roommate Cannon was like banging their head against their glass mirrored like sliding door in their room. And the cops was like, okay, like you have to go, like we're actually gonna have to take you in now because you're showing clear signs of self-harm by constantly like banging your head like against the door. And then you're saying that I believe that they said they wanted to unalive themselves or something. But this was like after they weren't like doing all that like before, like when I was like contemplating on like, oh my gosh, like are they joking, like what should I do. Yeah. And like also too, like I wasn't sure if they had like a rash or something that they broke out from. And so like the cops was asking them, because like my roommate Cannon had like a bunch of these like spots, and it was like, oh my gosh, is that an allergic reaction? Apparently it was just hickeys. And but like, yeah, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm gonna tell you guys of my freshman year party from like high school that was an interesting story too. But anyway, on topic. So basically, yeah, they had to take Cannon into the hospital to make sure, because the cop was saying that they could actually get in trouble if Cannon ended up doing something to themselves. And the cops went pretty much basically what the cop was saying, that how like my roommates and I could have gotten in trouble if we didn't call especially like me, if like we didn't call 911 soon enough. They could have also gotten in trouble too, because like they've known, like they were literally called over and they knew that this person was having like some type of like mental issues and like stuff like that. And also too, it was getting close towards the end of the semester, and they were saying like that's when a lot of people try suicide attempts and stuff like that in college, especially if they're like the first generation to go to college. So there's like a lot of like pressure and stuff from like the family, and even like just personal pressure, and like so many things, like mental health as well, as I mentioned. So they were saying that these were like the campus like police, by the way. So like the campus police were actually saying that it was it's like not unusual for like things like this to happen. But I ended up like not texting, but like emailing my Spanish teacher, because I had a Spanish exam that I was studying for when like this was happening, and Cannon's partner kept coming to the door and stuff like that. That experience was like kind of like traumatizing. Like I actually, as I mentioned, I emailed my teacher, my Spanish professor, and I told her everything that had happened with my roommate and like the mental health stuff. And like she was very understanding and allowed me to postpone my exam for a later date. So I had to like make arrangements to go take the exam. So sophomore year, I wasn't in person class, because like we had La Rona during freshman year, so we literally got kicked out like 1 month before it was time to leave. Like it was actually spring break, and like college usually ends like May, early May actually, so it was like April 8th or something. It was like early in April, so we basically had like a month and like a few weeks, if even that. It was, yeah, like pretty much like almost 2 months or so, I would say. Pretty much, yeah. It wasn't like long, it wasn't far away. It was probably like the second week of May we were going to be out for summer or something like that, or third week. My next roommate experience, oh yeah, okay, yeah, so it was like kind of like my junior senior year, because like the rest of like my sophomore year or whatever, I did like my first semester of sophomore year with Purdue Fort Wayne, and then I transferred to the main campus, but I was online at Purdue West Lafayette. And yeah, so I was just pretty much like just living my best life and like doing online school, going to crystal shops and stuff between classes, like just exploring and living life. Gas was cheap back then. Like I was out here taking road trips, and I was everywhere, handling the business, like alone of course, and like distance, but yeah, and with masks. But anyway, yeah, what's it called? It was oh yeah. So this instance happened actually pretty much like literally last fall. Pretty much close to like around this time, actually, like last November actually. And it feels like it was like, oh my gosh, like yesterday. Like I can't believe I was like in college a few months ago. That's crazy. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm sorry. I'm just like super chill. I'm just like, yeah. But what was I saying? I keep saying I got off campus housing, and my roommate situation was okay. Like I have a student housing video coming up. Like I'll say like everything in there. It'll be interesting, but like I have to be careful with my words. So because like, you know, the contracts, but I'm doing student housing videos and stuff. But this was like off-campus student housing, and I got this apartment. Like, there was basically nowhere to live, and but they were saying that everybody has to go back to campus. Like, they weren't gonna like be doing like online stuff anymore, or you would have to do like Purdue Global or something. Like, they have like a specific thing that you would do for online school. But since, you know, a lot of people were like, everything was one line anyway. It's not like you had to be in person. A lot of people didn't even like nobody was really on campus though too, because I also had a friend that was actually from high school that was like completing her freshman year, and they were like, they really didn't make any friends or anything because everybody was like in their dorms cooped up and kind of like, you know, quarantined. But anyway, so this roommate, okay, so I had one roommate, I want to call her Carol. So Carol, Carol was Carol's not from America. Carol is from, I don't want to say what country she's from, but yeah. But anyway, Carol's not from America, but Carol is POC, I believe. Is Carol POC? Yeah. I think Carol is considered POC. I'm still kind of like learning about like who is considered POC and not. But oh my gosh. Yeah. So Carol is POC. And yeah. So, okay, I'm just gonna say Carol is POC. Yeah, so the other roommate was American and stuff, and they actually went to Fort Wayne as well. And it's really interesting because, okay, so this roommate, they were from like a rural area, in Indiana. And, which, like, you know, it's okay, because, like, I don't really, like, I get to know people. I don't really, like, judge them based on, like, where they're from, because I've met a lot of people, like, from, like, different cultures and stuff, and it's, like, it's about the individual. And, even, like, at Fort Wayne, I met this one guy. I didn't even know he was actually from, a rural area, because, like, he was literally saying, like, yeah, I'm from the sticks, and, like, but you would never know. And because he just seemed like he was, like, a city kid. Like, oh my gosh. He actually transferred from, I think it was, like, DePaul, but, like, he was going to, college in, like, Chicago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool to, like, go to school in a city. Like, oh my gosh. But I don't know. I feel like cities are, like, fun to visit, but, like, living there is, like, ugh, I don't know. So, like, this roommate, I'm gonna call her, Tabitha. So, Tabitha, I don't know, it was, like, I was thinking of Samantha or Tabitha. So, I was like, Tabitha. Okay, so Tabitha is, Tabitha's actually really cool. Tabitha had, like, you know, a cat and stuff like that, but I don't know, the apartment was, I'm not even gonna say the apartment. So anyway, long story short, some point, like, around this time, like, a year ago, they were like, bringing this person to our apartment. Well, this person was supposed to come visit them, and, like, they weren't, like, you know, dating or anything, and, like, they basically just, like, started speaking to each other and stuff. And I just thought it was weird though too, like, that Tabitha was, like, jumping into the kitchen and stuff like that. But I was like, okay, you do you, which I don't think there's anything wrong with being submissive, but it's just like, you need to know who you're being submissive to, and, like, you know, what kind of, you know, mindset the person has, because you're going to be out here making children or whatever, or, you know, potentially, like, living the rest of your life with this person. Like, you kind of want to know where they stand mentally and stuff like that, because, like, that can all, like, be factors in how they treat you and especially how they feel about women. Like, let's be real. And yeah, but anyway, that's not what this is about. So this person, so Tabitha, even though she's from, like, a small rural area and stuff like that, she would have a friend named, I'm gonna say that, Jerry. We're gonna say Jerry. Named Jerry, who's also from a small town too, but like Jerry is like really cool and stuff like that. Jerry had like one of those like, you know, personalities that like you could like we would just like make jokes and stuff like that, like make like very like dorky jokes or whatever and stuff like that. He's just very like cool, like, you know, get along with everyone types of person. So it was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, yeah, like, you know, so like me and me and Carol were like, you know, really cool with like Jerry and stuff like that coming over, like, you know, Jerry, cool fun personality. And yeah, but anyway, Tabitha started going out when Tabitha first invited this guy over, that's not Jerry. Her and Jerry were just friends. He, I don't know, he was like sitting like they were in her room, and like when he saw like Carol and I, his face, he had like a bubbly personality. He was like, hi, and then he looked up and saw that we were non-white, and his entire like body language like changed, and he was like very like one word sentence, and he was like, yeah, okay, not looking us in the eye or anything. And I was just like, like this is really weird, especially given the fact that I literally went to like so many different types of schools and stuff like that. You just start picking up certain behaviors, and yeah, like there's like no reason for you to be like that, and it was just really weird. And then like she was just gushing about this guy, talking about how like, oh my gosh, he opens doors for me and all this other stuff, and like I've never been treated like this. And so she was like Tabitha was talking about how this guy was chasing after her for like 2 to 3 years, and she would like never give him the time of day. And then she was like, well, she decided to give him the time of day or whatever. Basically, I'm like looking out the window because like they went to go to Walmart, and I'm just like looking out the window, and I see that like he's like helping her out of the car and like opening the door and stuff like that. And tell me why I see the Confederate flag on front of the truck, the pickup truck this guy drives. And I'm just like, oh, last time I saw a Confederate flag on the front of a pickup truck, the next person I encountered was like not, it was actually on it was not on the Fort Wayne campus, but like my mom like picked me up. It was like the first my first weekend home after like going off to college, and she just got back from like LA or whatever on like, you know, a family girls trip. And I was looking out the window randomly, just like staring out the window, and I see 4x4 with the Confederate flag on there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, is that the Confederate flag? And I'm like googling it really fast. It was like, yep, that was the flag. And then so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like for some reason I just knew that we were gonna have an encounter. And I kid you not, but the thing is, the person that we had an encounter with wasn't white. They were black. And the guy was literally around my age, and I think he actually went, I don't even know if he went to Fort Wayne or not, but he was trying to do a petition or whatever, and he asked this lady who was in front of my mom, if like, what's it called? Like, he was like, man, do you mind signing a petition for my school? Like, blah, 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 blah. And, so the lady was like, no, thank you. And so then my mom, like, before, like, he could even ask her, she was like, no, thank you. Like, you know, before he even, like, could, like, ask her or whatever. And then he, like, basically, like, snatches his clipboard back. Mind you, this guy's, like, asking people to sign stuff, and he's, like, sitting down. And, yeah. And anyway, so he was like, I was gonna ask you, black people don't buy anything anyway. And then I was just like, the lady that he asked was even appalled. Like, she literally stopped in her tracks and was like, this guy, dark skinned, literally, like, pretty much, like, every single, like, stereotype you could, like, imagine that you pretty much see on the news, he was, like, emulating. Like, especially, at least, like, from, like, the way you look. But this guy's energy, no, I kid you not, people talk about energy all the time, but this person's energy, I don't know what this was, but he was exuding some, like, low frequency energy. I kid you not. Like this stuff, like I was literally starting to feel sick in front of this guy's presence. Now, I don't know who he was. Like I was literally getting a deep headache and everything. And I was just like, I don't know what this was. Like my mom was like kind of like appalled and taken back. And she was like, oh my gosh, like why would you say something like that? And this guy was like dark skin as well too. But it was just like something was wrong with that person because like, I don't know, this frequency stuff, like energy is very real. Yeah. I was just like, huh. And that was the first time I had that experience. But like the second time, I literally met another person that had like a similar, like low frequency energy like that. Like when you get around people like that, like you literally feel so sick. Like they like no, 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 no. I don't like people like I don't recommend that. I don't believe that people, any and everybody should be invited into your home, into your room and stuff like that. Like I just don't. But anyway, back to the story. I just want to tell you guys that because of the Confederate flag thing. And so cuz it just like took me back to like that moment where I saw like the Confederate flag and I was just like, "Huh." But like that just like shows you, as I mentioned, I'm a person that like gets to know people on an individual basis, not their cultural stereotype, because I mean, like, you know, yeah, it's about the individual and how they treat you, not like, you know, because sometimes it's the people that look like you that are like don't have the best intentions for you. But in this case, it was the opposite. So I see the Confederate flag, you know, on the front of the vehicle, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen now? I'm like, this is a sign for something. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, that he like saw us. Like I'm just like trying to like, you know, I'm like literally like things are starting to like, you know, start connecting in my mind. I was like, what? Like this doesn't make any sense. Like what? And well, okay, actually, it really did make sense. Like I wasn't really saying that, but because I was just like, huh, like this is so weird. Like she's literally riding around in this car with this guy with that on the front of it, and I was just like, but this roommate was like so like, she wasn't like best friend, like our best friend or anything like that, but it's just like, you know, I'm like the type of person like I at least like to be cordial with my roommates. We don't have to be best friends or anything, but like we were like really cordial and stuff, and yeah, and like we would all have like conversations and eat together, and even like, you know, like split food together. Like we'd all have like, if we all wanted a pizza or whatever, we would all put our money in for it and divide it by 3 and stuff like that. So like we were all like, you know, like roommates and stuff. Like we weren't like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna talk to you and like it's gonna be silence when I walk into the room. Like it wasn't anything like that between anyone. And but anyway, so they get up. We live on the 3rd floor, by the way. And so Tabitha gets upstairs to the 3rd floor, and then she knocks on my door. And I think also too, because the way that I speak, I don't sound like the typical like person, well, the typical like, you know, black female. So, and I also too sometimes think about that because I was like, like, do people sometimes think that they can like ask you certain things because the way you speak, like sometimes you have to get to like know people, because I'm just like, just because I speak a certain way doesn't mean I'm like getting down with like, you know, like there's people that like, you know, speak like proper or whatever, and like they like, you know, will sit there and like bash like their entire culture and like all this stuff. And like I'm not like that. Like I love culture, as you guys can like tell by like my anthropology video. And yeah, so well, yeah, I didn't really speak too much about but that stuff was about like cultural anthropology. But anyway, back to the story. So Tabitha knocks on my door, and she was like, hey, he just wanted me to ask you if you were like okay with the Confederate flag. And that's what I mean by like some people just like, and I just like, oh my gosh, and I was like, is this like an ambush or something? Like, what is like going on? Like, yeah. And then he's like saying like the most words he has ever said to me or whatever. He was like, oh yeah, I just didn't want to. She was like, Tabitha was basically saying like he don't want to make me feel uncomfortable or anything. And he was like, yeah, you know, people like I hate when people like use the Confederate flag to like disrespect black people. And yeah. And I just like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to like, you know, like not really say too much because I'm trying to see like where this person is like coming from, because like you know where I lay my head at night, and you're out here running around with like, I didn't even know this guy had a belt with the Confederate flag. And so it was like, why are you telling me this? Like, and I was like, did they see me outside of the window? And I was like, no, because like they were looking down, and like I don't think they seen me on like on the like, you know, through the window and stuff like that. And then apparently they had it on their hat too, and I was just like, well, you bought it, so like huh. And I'm just like, I don't like this. This energy is like, no. And then Tabitha was like, oh my gosh. And then like my other roommate, Carol's always talking about how America is built on the backs of black people, right? So I'm just like, you know all that, but then she's like over here like swearing up and down that she doesn't know what the Confederate flag is. And I'm just like, is she just saying that? So like just like, you know, so there's like not like a big thing or whatever, because Carol cannot handle any like confrontation or anything like that, because like, you know, with our apartment stuff, like, oh, I'll probably talk about that. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in like the student housing video. And yeah, but anyway, so I was just like, maybe she's like deflecting, but basically Carol, yeah, I don't know, I was just looking at Tabitha differently, and then I was also kind of like side-eyeing Carol, because I'm like, Carol is like, I don't know. There was like a lot of stuff like going on and happening with the apartment, because like, one, it wasn't properly cleaned when I moved in. There was like a bunch of issues going on with it. They had an illegal sublet or whatever. The bathroom was just, like trashy, dirty, and like I don't live like that at home. Like I like to keep everything clean. Like all my roommates, like if you ever ask them, like you're gonna catch me like out here like spraying doorknobs and stuff like that, because we don't have time to be laid up in the apartment weeks on end and whatever else. Like we don't. Like there's not even just for like La Rona, but like, you know, just like who likes to have a stuffy nose? I don't. Like no. Yeah. So basically, yeah, so she's like saying all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like why are we having this conversation? I'm like feeling awkward, and we're like, oh my gosh, like I'm not trying to really like let them know like how I feel and stuff like that about that, because I'm just like, why would you clearly bought, like why would you buy, that's like you buying like the swastika, although it was stolen from like the Middle East, but like the meaning that it has like for the Jews, yeah, you're really it's like basically like used to taunt the demise of a, you know, a certain group of people. Like that stuff is not cool. And no, and it really looks, it looks violent too. Like it is violent. Like you really think that's you? Like I just we can talk about that all day, but it's just not a good look. And yeah, and but also too, it just shows your mental capacity that you don't. And then like the lie that you sat here to like I'm literally taking like I was taking history of American agriculture. We were like talking about like all of that stuff. Like we literally learn about this like all the time in history. But like really, really. But anyway, Tabitha like also what it just made me realize too that like she wasn't as smart as she would like try and make herself out to seem. Like um she wasn't really there like that. And like that instance and like the type of person she was like going towards, like something wasn't right about that guy. Like I don't know, low-key I felt like he was like hiding something from her like early on, but who knows. Last I heard that they were actually dating and boyfriend and girlfriend and whatever else, and it was like, oh my gosh, like like whatever. Yeah, but anyway, that whole instance just like made me realize though too that like Tabitha was always like, well, one, Tabitha wasn't as smart as she proclaimed claimed to be. And yeah, and also too it just like made me think too like certain like conversations and stuff like that. Like I remember like one time it was like I forgot, we were having like a casual normal conversation, and Carol was there too, and then Tabitha was saying like, oh she was talking about like mean roommates that she had had in the past, and she was like, oh, if you be mean to me, I'm gonna have to be mean to you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and I was just like, huh, like, does she mean racist or anything like that? Because I'm just like, why would you fix your mouth to say something like that? Like, seriously? It's beyond me. Like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, no. And then also, too, she made a remark or something like, one time, it's just like, when certain things happen, like, other things start clicking, and it's just like, really? And she literally said one time, she was like, oh my gosh, like, don't steal my man. Why would you fix your mouth to say that? How dare you fix your mouth to say something like that? And I'm not sure if it's like the whole no, I'm pretty sure it is like the whole black and white people thing, because like, back in the day, well, slave masters would prefer the slaves over their wives, and now today you hear some black women like say, like some people say that white women are taking all the black men. And yeah, and I'm not sure if that was like a reference to that, because I'm just like, well, why else would you say that? And you didn't say this stuff to Carol. So it's just like, huh, like, this is really weird. And I'm just like, I was like, yep, all this stuff is like, oh, and then, oh my gosh, yeah, and I was just like, the fact that you fixed your mouth to say that, and like, honestly, if I like told her the truth about like, the type, we don't like the same kind of guys, especially on an intellectual level, like, this person is not up to par at all. Plus, the fact that you're out here running around with this flag that's basically representing the demise of black people, it's like, no. And some people think that there's nothing wrong with the flag, but it's like, the history behind it, it's just like, why would you, if you, like, why would you need to go do that? Like, what type of power is that, where you just like wave things around that reflects like, mass genocide and like, just the demise of a group of people? Like, what? Like, that is not cute. It doesn't look powerful. It looks weak, because like, you can't explain like who you are as a person outside of this flag or symbol that is like not good. No thanks. And also too, like, I like, before all this like like I would even, well, not before, it was like after, I was like trying to like, I was like trying to have a conversation and stuff like that, and this guy was like, Tabitha's friend was trying to like, he was still using like one word sentences and stuff like that, and I was like trying to like ask him like questions about certain things, and like trying to like pick his mind and stuff like that. And he basically was just like, you know, saying like, oh, that, no, I don't believe in that, that's stupid. And oh my gosh. And I was just like, so basically what he's saying is like he's not that intelligent either. And like, no. Yeah. I had this dream that what's it called? That there, it looked like Tabitha was like crying in a dream. Like we were on this like rooftop or whatever, and she was like crying like like turned over, and you can just see like her blonde like wavy hair or whatever. I'm like fighting with this guy, like wrestling, and there's like a gun involved. Am I allowed to say that? Gun, weapon. Okay. Pow pow. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And like this person, like the way that they're fighting me, like it literally felt like them. I didn't see their faces, and the guy didn't actually look like Tabitha's friend, but the energy felt the same. And I don't know, I believe that that was a sign from God, because like it was time for me to go, because it was like not only like there were just like so many things that was happening from since like the day I moved in there with like Carol and I's like room and stuff. I'll talk about that later in a different video, as I mentioned. But it was just like, oh my gosh, it was just like the way that this person was fighting me. Like there was like a lot of like I didn't even want to say anger, it was more like fear, because oftentimes like when there's like racism and stuff, like I'm not sure, well, you guys probably like see like it's literally on the news all the time, something happened to somebody and or a cop abused their power. I don't know, sometimes I just see like different things in people's behavior. Sometimes it's like fear, sometimes it's anger, sometimes it even seems like it's jealousy. Yeah, but it was like, but with this person it was like it was fear. There was another instance that happened on campus, or not on campus, basically long story short, like my sister and some of our classmates like back on the Fort Wayne campus, there was this girl in the class. They went to go to her hometown in Auburn, Indiana, and nobody researched where they were going, and one of the girls actually had a minivan, but this girl insisted on driving her car, and so like they were all like, you know, squished in the back or whatever, and then she was taking all the back roads and stuff, and then saying like, oh my gosh, like 20 years ago they found a black girl on the golf course in bags, and like they were like, oh my gosh, and there was like, who tells a story like that? Because like, you know, you don't think about this stuff until like after, and then it's just like, wait a minute. So like they thought like, you know, basically they went to this carnival or whatever, and they were like the only people. Okay, no, they weren't the only people there, but there were other black people there, but they were all kind of like weird, like, you know, they were like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to explain it, but like when you come across certain individuals, like it is weird. Like my sister was saying that like one of her counselors and like some of her like other white friends, they were saying like, you went where? Like you're not supposed to go there. Like why would somebody take you there? Like that's not your friend. And yeah, because apparently this person like thought it was really funny and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not sure if that's an actual sundown town or not, because I know those are still real, apparently. And, you know, it's just not safe for, like, people to be certain places, especially, like, you know, as a lady in general. Like, you know, you already can't go anywhere. Yeah, but the horses and stuff were acting weird, and like my sister, she's like kind of like should I say superstitious and stuff like that, but she was saying like the animals, like when something's going down, the animals will literally tell you, and the horses were acting all wild and stuff when you would come near the horse and stuff. Like if you guys like, understand like, animals and stuff, like, feel free to like comment down below your interpretation and stuff of like, because I'm like curious to like know more about that. I've never really seen like animals do anything like that. Unless it's like a tornado or something, or some type of natural disaster, like maybe like a hurricane, you'll see like, I don't know, or earthquake, you'll see like the animals moving differently. When that girl came back, when they had class and stuff the next day, yeah, like it was really weird. They were selling, some of the black people were actually selling Confederate flag blankets and stuff like that, and they were like, people were just telling them like, get home safe, you take care and have a safe night. Families were staring at them and everything, and I was just like, oh, like, that's a red flag. Yeah, but like the next day, I guess like they were basically saying that the girl that thought it was funny. When is it funny to put somebody's life in danger? If you have like friends and you are maybe like there's a family gathering or whatever, and you know that there's family members that are not too welcoming to maybe a specific culture, religion, or sexuality, if that person's your friend, like they're not gonna bring them, like, and they're not gonna invite you over, right? That's just like rule of thumb. Like, why would you put someone in a situation like that, or even possible danger, because you think it's funny? Like, it's never funny. But anyway, but this person was like shaking their leg and stuff like that, like twitching, like, when someone when they're like anxious or whatever, like their leg was like tapping, like this girl's leg was vibrating, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And the guy that Tabitha was seeing, that was in our apartment, he was basically doing that too, and I was just like, huh, this is really interesting. But like, you have to think about it. She took all of these people, like over like 5 or 6 black female classmates, to this area, and like you never know, like somebody could like retaliate and hurt you or something, but like nobody did anything to her. But it's just like, they were like, well, we're all alive, and it just shows you just can't trust everybody, and make sure you have your own ride, because yeah. But I'm gonna go now. Thank you guys for actually, wait a minute, I can't end the video because I forgot that, what the world, I hope I didn't delete everything. I forgot to tell you guys know the high rise that I lived in, if you guys seen the video. So basically I only lived there from like January of this year, so January of like 2022 to July 31st of 2022. And like, as I mentioned, there was like a lot of stuff going on with the apartment, plus like the whole roommate thing, and like them like, like the weird dreams and stuff like that, and like the behavior of this person. It's just like, I didn't feel comfortable with that, because I just don't know, I just have personally had like, experiences with like females who will like go and like you'll try and like give them advice and stuff like that, and like they'll like, I had a friend, I would give her advice and stuff, and she'll go off and tell this guy that she was like talking to, not even talking to, they weren't even dating, like it was more like a sneaky link situation, because he was upfront with her and told her like he had like other people in rotation with her. And anyway, yeah, she still had to find somehow, some way to be upset with that, but she could never say that he lied to her, so but anyway, but it's just like, when you tell somebody, like, okay, I didn't tell this roommate anything, but it's just like, after like my past experience with like certain like females and stuff like that, and like specifically the female friends, like this roommate wasn't really like a friend or whatever, I would say more of like a acquaintance, like a roommate, like a cordial roommate or whatever. And it was just very clear that the way that she was like jumping into the kitchen for this guy, I don't know, it was just like giving red flag. And I just packed up my stuff and left. Plus Carol was like out here, like the way that she was, I don't know, I just don't want to like risk anything and my life being in danger, and I definitely don't want to like I didn't want to have to like sit there and like try to like defend myself or whatever for something that could have been avoided. If so, I was like speaking to like trying to exercise my options and doing like research and stuff like that, because I was already trying to get out the contract in the beginning for like the unsanitary stuff, and like I'll tell you guys all that later. And yeah, but basically there would have been like a whole like well, you guys probably heard what happened with like the roommate situation. Like my grandmother was actually telling me, she was like, God literally made a way for you. He worked it all out and got you up and out of that apartment and safely, because like that could have literally like been you. There was a recently this semester, actually this fall semester of 2022, there was an incident where a roommate's unalived their roommate on the West Lafayette campus, and my grandmother was saying that like, who knows, like that could have like possibly have been your fate, but God worked it all out. And I was just like, yeah. But like that's like one thing. Like my Carol doesn't understand, like I'm like a superstitious, like not a superstitious person. Like when I get a vibe, or if there's like a sign or whatever that I'm not supposed to be somewhere, like everybody should listen to that, because that's literally, that could save your life. You never know. Not in a healthy spot. But that's pretty much all I have for this video. Other than that, besides those two things I mentioned earlier, the mental health stuff was like more of like a learning lesson, and yeah, and the other thing was also a learning lesson too, that not everybody is who they appear to be, and not everybody is where. It's very important for you to like get acquainted with people's mental processes and stuff like that, because but you know, a boy can change a lot for some people. But yeah, but anyway, stay safe. I want to share the story because like you know, you hear a lot about this stuff all the time, especially with what happened with Shanquilla and her friends in Mexico, which is a very tragic story. And like, you know, we are hoping she gets her justice soon. And yeah, but and also the roommate situation that recently happened as well, like is, you have to really like, you know, stay on your P's and Q's and just, you know, watch out and stay safe, and watch your friends too as well, 'cause some people are not your friends. And I'm gonna go.